Innovation, for me, and I was actually happy to see that Linda mentioned this previously as well, in its core, it's all about pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. That is exactly what I want to talk about today. That first 90 days, that first period on a new job, a new team, a new company, perhaps even a new school. Why did I pick that topic, or as I call it, 0 to 90 in 80 minutes, to talk about today? 2 reasons. The first one, in a few, probably shorter than you think, years here, you will all be knocking on doors of companies, big and small, applying for an internship and then later a full-time position. In fact, some of these companies will be coming after you guys for that position. And this can be really helpful. The second reason, if you're going to give a TEDx talk, it has to be around something you are really passionate about, right? And for me, throughout my career, whether I did sales and marketing or business development or supply chain, I discovered that one of my true passions lies around developing the people and the talent on my team, getting them to be better than I am, getting them to get bigger jobs on different teams if that's the right thing to do. So to start talking about those first 90 days, that first period, please indulge me in joining me in a journey, and this will actually be a journey in time. Year is 1985, and yes, I'm aware some of the people sitting here were not born in 1985, so I will try to shed some light as to what happened in 1985. It was a fantastic year. One of the things that happened, one of my all-time favorite movies, Back to the Future, came out, and talk about innovation, right? The guy had a time machine. Other thing that happened, a Norwegian pop band, released this video, the song called Take On Me, and this is a super cool song. I still think it's a good song today. You should go to YouTube and check it out. But the interesting thing is, it's the first time somebody incorporated a cartoon and real live characters into one video. And the result was amazing. But there was another thing that happened in 1985, perhaps slightly less known than these 2 events. And it's a well-known fact that to captivate one's audience, that'd be you, one has to use a sense of humor. So with that in mind, I used the funniest thing I know, which is a photo of me in 1985. Handsome, isn't he? This handsome young man and his family decided to relocate from Israel to a northeast suburb of Philadelphia for a couple of years. And language aside, I had no idea what I'm getting into. Now, this is long before the age of internet and knowing everything. I had no idea what kids in Philadelphia talk about. I had no idea what kids in the city of Waterloo Love like to do in their spare time, what sports team they like, which songs and movies do they like. And this led me to the, perhaps you will say, obvious conclusion that being new can, at least sometimes, really, let's say, be very, very hard. And of course, it's challenging and it's exciting and it pushes you out of your comfort zone, which we have established is the definition of innovation. But it's still very, very hard to do. Let's continue our passage in time. Move forward now. The year is 2011. And yet another nice family from Israel decides to move from their small town in Israel to a small town in the US called Redmond, Washington. Now I'd like to introduce you to my oldest son, Yoav. He's 12 and a half today. He was 8 and a half when we made that decision. And yes, luckily for him, he got his looks from my wife. And as my wife and I are somewhat concerned, but super excited about this great change, this big adventure we are going to embark in, Yoav didn't share our excitement. In fact, he offered to stay by himself in Israel with his grandparents or at our house and walk to school every morning, something that he's never done when we were around, because he really didn't want to move. And we've had many conversations with him, as parents do, trying to understand the core of his concern. And boiling it all down, it came down to 3 different things. The first one, here in Israel, everybody knows who I am. Everybody knows I'm a good student. Everybody knows I'm great at video games. Everybody knows I do martial arts. Especially, everybody knows I'm the funny guy, the funny member of my group of friends, always up with a joke. Nobody knows that in Redmond, wherever that is. The second thing, and he may have used different words, but the point was, I know how to be successful. I know how and where to hand in my homework assignments. I know exactly how the school system works. I know how to be successful in my martial arts class. I don't know how to be successful in a new school system in a different country. And the last thing, perhaps the most important to him at the time, I know what's cool. I know that having long hair is cool. I know that liking a specific sports team or music or places to go is considered cool, I will need to build this up from scratch into this new place. And now this got me thinking, is this the same for people when they join a new team, a new company, a new job? And I try to translate this, if you will, to a more adult or grown-up language. And this is what I got. Everybody knows who I am. It's about my reputation. What are you known for? This gentleman here, Mr. Warren Buffett, is known for being the best investor and probably financial mind of all times. He worked extremely hard to build that brand name and to be known for that. How to be successful? These brave firefighters about to go into this building on fire, they know exactly what their purpose is. Their purpose every day when they get up in the morning is saving lives. They have a set of commitments for them to make that happen. Now, I agree, not all jobs are about saving lives, but every job out there has a purpose, and you need to understand the set of commitments to make that happen. And the last thing, which for me was maybe the trickiest to translate into an adult language, and I call it, this is about the corporate or team culture. And I use the example of San Antonio Spurs. This is not about your background culture. We should celebrate different cultures and that diversity. This is about that each team, every part of a company or a sports team has a unique culture. San Antonio Spurs is an amazing sports team because they have a wide variety of players from different backgrounds, from the US, obviously, from different countries in Europe, different countries in South America, and yet, for the past 10 or 15 years, they have managed to remain successful in attracting new talent and retaining their talent and win championships, while not having the highest paid player in the NBA, not having the highly celebritized player in the NBA. And the way they've done that is building a unique and amazing team culture. And in fact, today, other teams in the NBA, Atlanta Hawks, my Philadelphia 76ers, are trying to imitate that culture by bringing in executives and coaches from the Spurs organization and try to build a similar culture. Now, with this in mind, I started to think about different examples of people who I saw in different organizations that were successful when they came into the organization or a different team, and people who were not so much. And I tried to think about the types of people, or maybe a better way to say it, the types of behaviors that led to people being not so successful. And I wanted to mention a few of them here today. The first type of behavior is the people who I call play hide and seek. They come into the office the first day, come, introduce themselves, shake your hand, and then a few months or maybe a year after, hey, you suddenly see them again. And you think, is that person even still here? Because I haven't seen them in any of the meetings, any of the interactions. I haven't felt they have any value. Where do they go? And those people, to me, kind of stay cooped up in their office or cubicle. But the problem is, in real life, nobody's coming to look for you. The second type of behavior, which is my personal favorite, I think it's very funny, is those who play the I'm still new card for way too long. It's definitely okay. It's a polite thing to do, professional thing to do, to play this card at the beginning. You can't play the I don't know, I'm still new for months on end. At some point, people realize you have no value. The third type of behavior is what I call the nostalgics. It's those folks who come in, they have a point of view, which is great, but their point of view is, you know, in my previous team, we used to do it this way. In my old company, we had a much better system for solving this. And now, while their past experiences is part of the reason we wanted them to join our team, if they don't offer a solution, it doesn't help anybody. And the last kind, and probably the most annoying, of behavior are the superheroes. Those folks who from day one, no, scratch that, from the first hour on a new job and a new team, on a new place, they know everything best. They have the right answer for everything. Doesn't matter what the problem is. Doesn't matter what the background or the context is. And there's always a good way how to do that, and this is not one of them. Now, as I'm going through this process, I started to add this, some may say annoying, question to all of my interviews. And I use this as the very last question I ask candidates when they come into interview. Now, as you can assume, I've received a wide variety of different answers, just to mention a few of them here. And I didn't mention these here to make fun of anybody. I'm putting this here to make a point. And the point is, for the most part, most people when they come into interview, they prepare to talk about what? Their past experiences. They don't prepare to talk about but what happens if they actually accept me and I start tomorrow? Do I have a plan? Do I have a structured approach to how when I approach this new position on this new team or new company? And most people come in and they try to improvise. Now, the next set of slides are perhaps a cheat sheet, if you will, if I ever interview you, or just a good plan to have in place whenever you start a new job, a new company, or join a new team. And I like to look at this plan, kind of comparing it to a full PC computing system. So the first part, your first 30 days, it's all about the inputs. Absorb, take in as many inputs, data, information as much as you can. Who's going to meetings? Who's not going to meetings? Who's making decisions in meetings? How are they making those decisions in meetings? Who are your internal and external partners in the different parts of the company? Every piece of information you can take in, the better. Second 30 days, so the second month, it's all about understanding. So computing or processing. You've taken in so much information. Now it's about time to start making sense of it all. You've seen somebody make a decision in a meeting. Why did that person make that decision? Why did they make it that way, not a different way? You notice that you have internal partners in the company, people you need to work and interact with. That's not enough. Try to understand what is the set of problems or issues that they are dealing with and are trying to solve and you can help with. And then the last part, last 30 days for this plan, it's all about creating. Now, can you solve all the problems of a company within 90 days? Probably not. And if you can, I would really like to hire you because you're a superstar. But baby steps is more than okay here. Little, small steps start to bring value on the small things, the quick wins, the lowest hanging fruit. Once you do that, you're on the right track. Now, keeping this in mind, and what we talked about before, remember reputation, your purpose and commitments, and the corporate or team culture, you have to look at both of them as a matrix. Looking at all, reputation, your commitments and purpose, and the corporate or team culture, build a plan for the first 30 days, all about listening, observing, getting in data. The next 30 days, try to understand, to make sense of it all. And then finally, start to create and bring some value. Good news, you don't have to do this by yourself. You have a manager. Find a mentor, extremely valuable. Find a peer who has been in your shoes 6 months or a year before, and they understand the process and the processes that you are going through. You don't have to do this by yourself. I will not go over each of the boxes here for lack of time and focus for today, but I would like to mention a few words about building your reputation. Reputations sometimes are associated with a bad term of being about egos. This is not about egos. This is about how you build your brand name within that company and also outside, but especially within that company. You can't make an impact. You can't bring value without establishing this trust and credibility first and foremost with your internal partners in the company. So when I see a salesperson join a company and the first thing they want to do is go outside and meet a customer, or when I see a supply chain professional and the first thing they want to do is go outside and meet a supplier, that is not the right way to start. The right way to start, identify your internal partners, start building this credibility and trust with them to get you to the point of being able to make an impact. Now, this is a very steep uphill climb. To make it even worse, it's a very slippery slope to go down on. But again, you don't have to do this by yourself. You need to find help, and there's plenty of that in every corporation you can find. We started talking about innovation and how innovation is about pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. Those first 90 days, that first period of a new team, a new company, a new school, it's all about being outside of your comfort zone. And trying to improvise and wing it may help for some, it won't for others. Coming in with a structured approach will definitely help. And even if that plan changes, that's perfectly fine. But at least you know what you're changing. Let me leave you off with not one, but two running analogies. I love running. I try to get up every morning and run in the morning. And one of the things I've discovered is that in running, while you can use a variety of outside resources to help you run better, energy bars, electrolyte waters, and so forth, it's the two things I can use for free that help me the most. And we actually have both of them here with us today. The first one is this. It's air. Intake as much air, oxygen, as you can, as opposed to shallow and steep breaths. And the second thing is gravity. Learn to use gravity as an advantage and not as a disadvantage. And similarly, in my career, I found that it wasn't necessarily those managers who sent me to fancy and expensive training sessions that helped me in my career the most. It was those that used and utilized two things I could practically get for free, and that was their time and their attention or commitment to make me better, to advance my career. And I was lucky enough to have had those managers in the past. I'm very lucky to have such leaders and managers working with me today. Second analogy is, make no mistake about it, your careers are going to be a marathon. Forget it, an ultra marathon, not a race. And with that in mind, do the first 90 days even matter? They do, because this methodology or plan is not just about the first 90 days on your first job ever. It's about the first 90 days every time you join a new team or a new company or take on a new job. Those first 90 days, that first period, is all about first impressions. First impressions matter. Make sure you give yourself a good head start. Make sure you make those first 90 days count. Thank you very much.